But in terms of what's happening there in Europe, every so often it seems that Ukraine wants to remind Russia that it can strike in Russian-controlled territory or in Mother Russia itself. And this was the latest example of that. So, but Admiral, this is certainly a spectacular explosion and a win for the Ukrainian forces. But along the front lines, the fighting is pretty frozen. Partially because of the winter weather has set in, but also because neither side can really make any sort of significant inroads. What's your assessment there of where things stand on the front? There's some reporting that Putin of Russia might be open to some sort of ceasefire talks, but only to solidify his gains. He's not given any territory back, so that seems like a non-starter with the Ukrainians. But where do you see this going in the months ahead?
Before we get to that, I simply have to make a comment about that strike, that massive explosion you showed. Ships don't blow up like that unless they are full of ammunition or fuel. That, I would say, knowing the class of ship, it's a tank carrier kind of ship, probably was full of Iranian drones, I would guess. So that's a big win for the Iranians. And I wouldn't understate the point you made a moment ago, Jonathan. This is very significant. Ukraine has pushed back the entire Black Sea Fleet, despite the fact that they have no navy. They're doing it with drones, long-range missiles, intelligence, cyber. Russia's been forced to retreat. That's keeping the shipping lanes open and is allowing the Ukrainian economy to continue. It's an extraordinary military story, and it's going to be recognized as a real pivot in how military force is applied. Break. Let's go to the front. I actually think, Willie, stalemate is the right word right now. I don't see any chance of a significant movement across the border. You're showing the yellow Ukraine, the red Russia. I don't see a significant movement, certainly through the winter. What could change in the spring is the addition of F-16 tactical fighters being supplied by U.S. and our NATO allies. That gives the Ukrainians something they have not had in this fight, which is the chance to create air superiority over those ground forces that might create a thrust opportunity. But frankly, I think this one is kind of settling down toward a frozen conflict. That's why you're hearing Putin talk about negotiation. Ukraine will give it, I think, one more big push in spring 2024. If that does not crack the Russian lines or something doesn't change in Moscow, I think this one is headed toward a negotiation. Last thought, it won't happen, however, until after the U.S. election. Putin absolutely will not go to a negotiating table until he sees the results of the 24 election. He will think to himself, if former President Trump becomes President Trump, that's a better negotiator for him. He'll wait to see that card turned over. But long story short, I think continued stalemate, probable negotiation toward the very end of 2024.
Admiral, this is Susan. Let's just look at the shorter term. The Biden White House has made it a big priority of trying to get this aid for Ukraine, but it is not guaranteed that it will get through Congress. What are the consequences in the immediate future if that aid is not approved, is not coming from the United States?
Yeah, in a word, they're dire for Kyiv. Now, I don't think Russia, even if we cut off all funds, would have the capabilities are a big part of this. They are half of all the aid that's going to Ukraine. While there are some cracks in the support in various countries in Europe, I think the Europeans will stand on this one as well. So I'm hoping the center will hold. I give the Ukrainians 2 or 3 months before Putin could start to really mobilize and move harder across that line. I don't think it's a complete collapse in the offing here, but it is deeply worrisome. Again, the word dire.